Good morning, Turfs Up Radio. Wayne Voles, Profits Unlimited, coming to you live from Louisville, Kentucky. Wow, can you all believe it? Can you guys believe it? Here we are on another hump day has come. Can y'all believe? I mean, really, it is June 4th already. Before a month from now, it'll be July 4th. And then once you hit July 4th, then everybody says summer's over, and then we'll be hanging Christmas lights. Yeah, baby. I hear you. Aaron, my buddy, was talking about Christmas lights this morning. He's got me all fired up and excited about Christmas lights this year at WLS. Looking forward to that. Man, hope everybody's having a great day. Aaron was this morning, and so was Darren Gruner. Darren had a great show this morning. If King Darren is back on every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, every day of the week. Yes, indeedy, with his landscape hero. And he was talking about the origin of mulch today, which was pretty cool. And then Steve Cohen hopped on with him a minute, talking about a book he's got coming out here in third quarter, maybe fourth quarter. So stay tuned to that. And Daniel, as always, with the pump station, keeping us busy. It's kind of funny, though. I got a text from Aaron. He said, man, check on Daniel. He said blueberry and pies isn't the best for you. He might have a fever. So I don't know. Aaron, I hear you, buddy. I like blueberries, but I think when you add the pie filling and the pie and the vanilla ice cream and all those things is, yeah, it's the pie, if you will. Not the blueberries. And when I say pie, not Katie's kind of pie, the math 3.14 pie, but hey, that's another story for another day. But we are back to full strength today. Katie just got in. She came in. It's glad to see her. Katie, by the way, you'll know that I've only got one thing I need help on after all those days, and that's just setting up a new job, in our software. So, yeah, other than that, man, I made it through it, and I don't know how, but we made it through it, and looking forward to getting a little help on that. But Katie's back in place, Kyle's back in place, team's at 100%. So Derek's back with us today. He's been out yesterday. He was under the weather pretty significantly. But he's back today. So we're back at full strength. We're out doing a little mowing, a little landscaping, a little fertilization, weed control, bed maintenance. We got it all underway today. So, it's a good day. It's third day in a row with no rain. I've got my buddies from BAM going to hop on with me Friday, I hope. And we're going to talk and see what Friday looks like. But it looks like tomorrow and Friday, some scattered showers, nothing too crazy from what they're saying. But it's awesome. Those guys are awesome. Appreciate everything you do for us, Matt, Brett, Michael, and God, everybody else up there with BAM Weather. Appreciate you guys. And but it has been nice. I ain't gonna lie, not having to worry about weather. Mike, I'll answer that question for you, man, in just a second. That's a good question. I will say it's a lot better this year than last year. So. Yeah, Mike was asking, how's bed maintenance going this year? Because it was such a big pain in the butt. Last year it really was, man. And I don't know. I think we might have it figured out. When I say we got to figure it out, I think the only reason we got to figure it out is because we're paying more attention to it. We did switch product number 2. We're still using the hell out of Snapshot, but I don't know. We just took a little different approach this year, and we've had a ton of rain, as you guys know. I mean, we're like 30% over on rainfall for the year here in Louisville. And, oh, my God, Central Kentucky, they're like 60% over normal. It's crazy. And but anyways, and hey, Katie, I want to share something with you too and our listeners. I did our sweep reports. Yeah, all of them. Yeah, hell yeah. I don't know. It's kind of scary. So, but anyways, hey, I'm not saying I'm good at software. I'm just saying that she's taught me enough over 2.5 years that we made it 3 days without her. So. We only got a few other things that we're going to need a little help with. Hey, one thing I want to let you guys know right away, we got a special guest on our show today. coming to us in I don't know, about 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and that is Adam. And I'm not even going to attempt his last name. I'm going to let him do it because it'd be like working in a butcher shop. I'd slaughter it, So, and it's really not that hard, but I'm just very conscientious about names, because my name's got 4 letters in it, and 4 out of 5 times people will pronounce it wrong. Everybody wants to put a T in it or a B in it, and it's like, it ain't that hard, man. So, but anyways, yeah, got Adam going to hop on here with me here in about 5 minutes, and he's with Segway Navimow Robotic Mowers. So, looking forward to that conversation with him, to say the least. And I will talk a little bit more about that when he hops on. But yeah. As far as Wayne's Lawn Service goes, Profits Unlimited goes, we're great. Hope you guys are great. We're enjoying this weather, being back at full strength with Kyle and Katie in here now. Man, our competition better watch out. That's all I got to say. Because we've been in Mike's world of the hockey world. We've kind of had a couple people in the penalty box, not literally the penalty box, but on vacation, taking some time away. And now we're back to full strength, buddy, and we're going to score. We're going to score. But with all due respect to me and Daniel, I will say that we did a good job. Thank you, Daniel, for all your help. And we did it. Yes, indeedy. And then I want to give one more shout out, and that's to our complete team for being professional. If any of you guys are listening to us, or ladies, hey, we appreciate everything you all do, staying on task in the rain, not being a bunch of crybabies. Like I see a bunch of shit on social media about people crying about the rain and nobody wanting to come into work or start late and all that. So I want to give our team a big shout out about that. So, hey, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back for more Profit Time here on Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station. Don't you go anywhere. We'll get Adam out here. Yes, indeedy. We'd love to have you in the Profit Circle. Check it out. Check it out. And speaking of looky here, was that not perfect timing? We could not have tried that any better. Let me see. We got our buddy Adam coming with us. Let's see. Adam, give me just a second here, buddy. We'll get you hooked in.
Sounds great.
I think we got you, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Wayne. Good morning. How are you?
Oh man, better now that you called in. I know it wasn't like a date that got stood up.
No, of course not. No, of course not. No, I've been really looking forward to this. I'm excited to talk with you, and man, excited for the opportunity. I love talking about robotic mowers, and excited to discuss with you today.
Good deal, man. Well, I appreciate you hopping on with me, and I know we're going to have a interest for sure. I know. It's robotic mowers is certainly the wave of the future, and we'll talk about that. But I'm going to let our listeners know. I told them you were coming on, but I didn't tell them anything about you yet. I was waiting for you to hop on with me. So I'm going to read a little bio that I got from Adam for everybody, and then he'll be happy, I would assume. Adam, you'll take questions as we go along today, right? If we have any questions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good deal. So one thing, Adam, I'm not going to do is try to master your last name. I mean, say it for me one time.
It is a tough one. Brozowicz.
Brozowicz. Is that correct? Sir. Is that correct, Brozowicz?
You did good. Yes.
Okay. Because the C and Z at the end, man, I just
How old was everybody?
Yeah. I said, I was telling our listeners when I first signed on, I'm like, I'm not even going to try to get his last name right because people screw mine up and I've got 4 letters in it, all the time. So, but Adam, I do appreciate you hopping on. Adam is actually the regional sales manager for the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and Midwest areas for Segway Navimow. He works with independent retail. Hey, like this. I'm blowing it up for you, Adam. He works with independent retailers, landscape and turf professionals, hardware channel retailers, and more. So without further ado, he's been with Segway since June of 2024. So, man, happy anniversary, I guess, right?
Thank you. Yes, yeah. I appreciate that. I think it was Monday. It was actually my 1-year anniversary with the company. So it's been, yes, sir. Yeah, it's been a great ride. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of challenges, but a ton of fun and exciting stuff in the works here.
Well, you know, they say it's like marriage, man. The first year is the hardest. So, hey, you made it past the hard one. So it's all easy from this point moving forward. No,
Man, that's so true. That's so true.
but no, and he's got quite an extensive background also with Husqvarna, as well as a business development manager with Husqvarna and a national account manager with Crest. So, you know, you've got plenty of robotic experience too. It looks like you've been working in that area since 2018. So,
Yeah, that's right. That's
so
right. So coming on the Husqvarna in 2018 as a territory manager, it was a big focus was robotics, and they I have to give them credit. They were really the first to market with robotic mowers. You know, and it's funny. A lot of people think this is a brand new concept. They actually came to market in 1995. So Husqvarna celebrating their 30th anniversary of robotic mowers. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool milestone, and it was great to be a part of it.
good deal. You know, something I didn't realize about Husqvarna, and I mean, I know we're not here to talk about Husqvarna, but since you brought it up a little bit, was the age of that company, man. I had no idea that they went back as far as they go back.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I think they're over 330 years old.
Yeah.
And they've been involved with a multitude of different product lines, from manufacturing firearms to bicycles to sewing machines, and now they're big into the outdoor power equipment space. It's a pretty cool company and a very rich tradition and rich history.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, hey, we haven't even got into this, and I've got a listener that says he had a Navimow as a demo for a few weeks. It was a very nice machine. So,
oh, that's great. That's great to hear. Awesome.
There you go, man. So, anyways, Doug, I appreciate you listening to us in Pennsylvania as well, and we'll get this underway. So, Adam, if you would, this is going to sound like I'm stupid, but I'm going to ask the question: what actually does it mean when somebody says a robotic mower? I mean, what?
It's a great question.
I mean, what would give us that in layman's terms, if you would?
So it's basically a tool that cuts your grass that does it autonomously. So, we think of traditional mowing. You sit on a zero turn for an hour and a half. You cut your grass. You repeat every Saturday, or you have a landscaper come out and do it. They cut with a walk behind mower or a zero turn. Robotic mowers is basically, we get this comparison a lot. It's like a Roomba for your yard. Though robotic mowers are much more technologically advanced than that. So basically, you set it and forget it. You create a perimeter around your property. You create no-mow zones, such as mulch beds, trees, in-ground pool, whatever you have that you don't want the mower to go in. You can designate an area where it stays out, and it cuts everything around that. It cuts everything within your property, and it really it does an amazing job on your grass.
Something that somebody, okay, and we'll look at this from a contractor's perspective right now.
Mm-hmm.
What's some of the benefits that, like Tim Brennan, for an example, it's how I got a hold of you and your name. You sell to Tim,
mm-hmm.
right? And he's actually implemented some, I think, within his own business as well, not only just selling
mm-hmm.
the product. What's some of the biggest benefits you see right away when you switch to robotic mowing?
For sure. Well, and first off, shout out to Tim Brennan, great guy, awesome Segway Navimow dealer. Really happy he was able to connect us. But to answer your question, as far as advantages for a landscaper, there's a ton of advantages, really. I think one, I travel all across the country, and anywhere you go, you ask a landscape professional what their biggest challenge is. It's not just hiring new employees, but also retaining those employees. So it really, there's a lot of pressure on them, as far as labor assets goes.
Right.
So this is not necessarily taking anyone's job. They're essentially able to use their finite asset of labor to do higher margin projects, such as detailed work, hardscaping, installs, things of that nature.
Absolutely.
The robotic mower is really just a tool to supplement their grass cutting, which is really their most expensive and least profitable line item in their business.
You're talking my language, man. We talk about that all the time. with my coaching and consulting that I do with Profits Unlimited, that it is the most expensive thing we do is mow a yard. And, a lot of these guys don't understand that, but it is. So I'm glad that the robotic side of it, now it may be a fear factor, and we'll talk a little bit about that, I'm sure, as we go along, but there is some of that, I'm sure, that gets involved. But how does the mower navigate a yard, if you will? I mean, what does your machine use? Are you on like a dog fence wire or a GPS, or how do you set parameters with your system?
Yeah, great question. So our units are all wireless. So there's a couple ways that they work. Number one is GPS or RTK. So essentially, when you get a mower, when you purchase a new mower, you get your mower, you get a charging station, and then you get the most important part is the antenna. So there's an antenna that comes with each mower. That antenna will communicate with satellites. That'll give your mower precise accuracy within a property. And the Navimow actually is a 2-centimeter accuracy on a property. So it's very precise.
So it's 2 centimeters within whatever you set as the parameter.
That is correct. Yeah, that is correct.
That just sounds like a very good tolerance, to say the least. I mean, convert centimeters for us, if you would. Is that a quarter inch or less?
It's got to be like a quarter to half an inch.
Yeah.
So with our mowers, once you get that satellite acquired, it takes about 2 minutes if you're in a good satellite area. And when I say good satellite area, you need the antenna placed with 110 degrees clear view to the sky. That's really, really important. So we suggest to mount the antenna on a building, on a structure, maybe a fence post, something that's physical that gives it a clear view to the sky. Once you get that satellite reception, you're going to Bluetooth your phone to your mower. We have a Navimow app. That's a very quick and easy process. I compare it to pairing to Bluetooth headphones. It's actually quicker than that. It's very quick. You'll pair your phone to the mower.
If you're pairing it, when you do that, as a contractor, okay, me as a contractor, if I've got multiple units out, am I pairing it to my customer's phone, or not comparing it, but pairing it to their phones?
It's a great question. So you could do it a multitude of ways. You can pair it to your phone first and do the install, and then you can share that device with your customer. Or if you're a landscape professional, and you have, let's say you have, a dozen or more in your fleet, we have a fleet app where you can control all mowers. You'll have a map of where each mower is. You can give remote commands from anywhere that you have cell signal to those mowers. You can change cut heights, change cut times, tell the mower to go home, change settings. You can do that all over your phone, just via the app.
I got you. All right. We got a question from somebody coming in, if that's
sure.
All right. Okay.
That's great.
Let's see here. They made a comment before the question. They said Husqvarna used to make guns too. Wow, that's crazy. But let's see. What's we'll get to the cost when you want to. And then the other part of that question is, and does he have anyone using them as a business? And then go ahead.
Yeah, we do. We have several dealers, several landscapers, and then we even have a company that does some subcontracting. This is a pretty unique company. I'll drop their name out here. They're called Greener. They're based in the New England states, and they basically subcontract robotic mowing for landscape companies. So, they will go to a property, they'll consult with the landscaper. The landscaper has the contract for the property. The landscaper focuses on the detailed work, and then Greener will actually put a robotic mower on the property, and they actually manage the mower for the landscaper. It's a pretty cool technique. But we also have landscapers across the country, such as, Brennan Landscaping in Schenectady,
right.
Local Lawn Care and Landscaping out in Chicago, and several others. Automated Outdoor Solutions with the Langton Group. They're all using robotic mowers as a mowing tool for their business.
So is the business, here's another comment we got. John was just one of our listeners here. John, he was saying he runs 55 robotic mowers in their fleet. That's awesome. That's certainly somebody getting ahead of the curve, isn't it?
That is, yeah, that's amazing.
And so what's the platform for that, as I would see it, and as we've talked about it around here a little bit, when we discussed the robotic mower aspect of it, was so you eliminate a mowing guy. So what is the business model that then you just have one person go around, weekly based on that service frequency and do the trimming and blowing and edging?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So instead of having maybe like a 3-man crew with, multiple zero turns and trucks and trailers, you can send essentially 1 or 2 crew members out. They go to each property. They do the detailed work. I would say a robotic mower, whether it's our mowers or, any company in the industry, they get about 98 to 99% of the yard. There's still going to be some trim, like around a fence, around a physical building, things like that. But 98 to 99% of the yard will be perfectly cut. But same thing, just like a zero turn. When you cut with a zero turn, you're going to have that gap between a fence and your mowing deck. So it's the same concept.
Same concept. Okay. Another one of our listeners has a question. Says, obviously, there's no restriction on the cut time, is it? He said, can they mow at night and then just go trim the next day, basically?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or how do you see contractors using them? Are they running them just constantly, on a yard, or are they? What are you seeing in your, with what you're doing with them?
Yeah, so it's property and landscaper. It's on a case by case basis, right? So you're going to have some properties where they only want to cut at night. You're going to have some properties where they run an irrigation schedule, and they want to avoid mowing during the irrigation schedule. So you can modify your mowing times and mowing schedules as you choose. You do it right over the app. So for me personally, being in the Northeast, I have a mower kind of maxed out. So I have about 1.5 acres of cut. I have 1.2 acres of cut. I have an 1.5 acre mower maintaining that. I run mine 7 days a week, every day. I run it every day, and just, every day it's going out, it's cutting a little bit off the top every day. And it kind of maintains a cut height.
I got you. So it's running consistently, and then so your trim and edge cycle could be weekly or whatever that it is with the customer normally. All right.
Cool. Exactly. Yep. Right. I do mine weekly, and I think that's typically what most landscapers do. As far as, this is a question we get all the time, kind of on that same note, is, how often do you recommend cutting? I would say anywhere from 3 to 7 days a week is what we recommend. I personally like my grass cut more frequently, so I recommend on the higher end of that. I recommend 7 days, but some folks do it less frequently. Depends on your yard, depends on how fast the grass grows and things like that.
I gotcha. Got a question from a guy in Pennsylvania.
Great.
Doug, he said, compared to Crest, because he's demoed Crest, what are the pros and cons of Crest versus the Navimow?
Mm-hmm.
So, you don't mind that. Is that right?
I don't mind that. No, it's a great question. I don't mind that one bit. So I worked for Crest for a short period of time, and obviously I'm with Navimow, so I'm somewhat knowledgeable on both product lines. Crest makes a good machine. I think, where Crest has some advantages, they have some larger acreage mowers out. I believe they go up to a 9-acre unit right now. So they have those bigger capabilities. Our largest mower is 2.5 acres. I think some advantages that we have are, number one.
Adam, before you talk about your advantages, let's back up just a second. When you said they have like a 9-acre machine, what's changing on that? The battery life to allow it to mow longer, or is it the deck size?
Yeah, they're going to be
or both.
Mainly battery life, but also their deck is going to be a little bit bigger.
Okay.
Yep. But mainly battery.
I gotcha. All right. So, and again, I've got Adam. We had a couple guys tune in late. This is Adam with us, and he's with Segway Navimow. robotic mowers. So go ahead if you don't mind, and I won't interrupt you until you finish. And I'm sorry about that. These guys are just got a lot of questions are rolling in here with.
Good. Well, I'm glad. I'm excited for it. Yeah. So I mean, I think where our advantage comes in is one is our app. So I think if you ask anybody who's used our product or used multiple products on the market, our Navimow app is really the best in class. It's very easy to use. You can pair to your mower quickly. You can give it commands quickly. You can install very quickly and very efficiently. So anybody that has cell signal and a smartphone can basically run it. It's a great, great app. I think that's advantage number one. I think the other advantage is our antenna system. So our mowers each come with an antenna. So you basically have a localized GPS antenna on the property. Crest uses a network RTK. So essentially they'll have a dealer, they'll put an antenna on their dealer, and then they get a radius around that dealer where they have RTK coverage. I believe it's 10 to 15 miles. So if you're outside of that range, you may struggle to get signal with their mower. Whereas ours, you get a localized RTK antenna with each mower, and you should be able to establish a GPS or satellite signal on any property with ours. I think that's a big advantage. I think this also, I really don't like selling on price, but we do have some great per point models as well. So if you look at retail, we have units starting at $1,000. They're smaller properties, great for city lots, 1/8 of an acre, quarter an acre units still in that $12.99 price. So it's very affordable for a lot of landscapers to get into our product. So I'd say those are really our top advantages. Okay. One thing I didn't mention was we offer vision technology. So each of our mower. Yeah. So there's two parts to the vision technology. So each of our mowers has a camera system on it, and they help with precise location on a property. So I didn't get into the installation process, and I'll kind of explain that, and I'll tie the vision in with that. So I mentioned earlier, you're going to establish a satellite signal with an antenna. You pair your phone to your mower. From there, you drive the mower around the perimeter of the property using your cell phone app, and that creates a virtual boundary. Well, as that mower is driving around, or as you're driving the mower around, those cameras are taking pictures and creating a 3D image within its AI of the property. So it really understands and knows the property from satellite imaging, and then also localized camera imaging, visual imaging of the property. So that's one advantage for sure. And where that comes into place is if that mower is cutting underneath like a thick area, say like pine trees.
Okay.
A lot of your competitors on the market are going to lose satellite signal underneath like a pine trees or a thick cover area. Where our mowers go underneath that, the vision technology will actually take over and guide the mower through those low satellite reception areas, if that makes sense.
So if I've got a yard in an area that's got a pretty good tree canopy on it, then I should be able to still utilize that robotic mower, if you will.
Absolutely. The Navimow, at least, for sure. So the most important part, two things. You want to have clear view to the sky with your antenna, and then you want to have your vision fence on.
Okay.
That helps locate the property and then navigate through those areas. It shouldn't be a problem. We have them in very thick cover areas, actually.
Now, when you put the antenna up, the local on-site antenna where the mower's staying, does that require power for the antenna, or is it just are you just mounted? No, I'm thinking this again as a contractor, and you're my customer, Adam. Hey, we got to attach an antenna. What's that antenna? I mean, is it 4-6 inches, or is it you remember the old satellite disc back in the day? Mm-hmm. Y'all are probably too young to remember those, but they look like a miniature swimming pool.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the antenna look for this thing, and does it require power?
So it's pretty small. I don't know the exact dimensions, but it's maybe the size of your hand.
Okay.
It's a pretty small device. It's kind of like a square, like a square shape. It doesn't necessarily require its own individual outlet. You'll actually have extension cables that you can connect into your charging station. So it connects right into the back of the charging station. The charging station will need power, but that charging station could be located on the ground. So the power could be inside or out, or an outside outlet. It's just a 110 outlet, but the antenna itself does not necessarily need.
But the antenna goes to the charging station then.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. All right.
Yep.
Good deal.
Yep. And for instance, if you had to elevate it, or if you had to remotely move that antenna in the yard to acquire a satellite signal, we sell extension kits that I believe they're 32 foot long. You can daisy chain up to 2 extension kits. So you can get it quite high elevated, and you can also move it to many locations in the yard.
We had a text here from a gentleman, Mike. He said, with concerns to theft, what's the theft protection built into the Navimow?
Yeah, so we do have some great theft protection. So we have so GPS tracking is number one. I would say, so there's a couple features on it. So one, we have a lift alarm. So there's actually an alarm. If somebody comes to the property and physically picks the mower up, an alarm will go off. And then we have a geofence feature too, where we create a radius around your property. And if that mower leaves that radius, the alarm will stay on and continuously stay on. It's very loud and very annoying. And then we actually have the GPS tracking as well. So if that mower were to get picked up, the thief were to ignore the alarm system, you can actually track your mower. It gives you an exact GPS location and latitude and longitude location. So if it were to leave, you can notify the police, give them latitude and longitude coordinates, and they can go collect the mower.
Cool. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. One other thing I want to say to that too is that mower, if it does get stolen, is truly useless to the thief, to the person who stole it. Yeah. So your mower is one, it's married to the phone that installed it, that operated and paired it. They can't pair it to another phone without the initial user granting them access. So they can't use it. And then it's also married to its own antenna, and only a dealer can adjust the antenna communication between a mower. So truthfully, if they steal it, it's a 30 to 50 pound paperweight at that point. It's truly useless.
And what's the complexity of changing blades on it?
So it's very easy. Our blade system are basically dual-sided razor blades. They're about the size of a box cutter blade. They're very precise. So our smaller units, our I and 8 series, have 3 blades, and our X series has 6 blades. The process of changing blades is very simple. It's just a Phillips head screw. You just unscrew the screw, pop a new blade in, tighten the new screw in, and you're ready to go. And the cool thing is, with our app, you actually get you get a push notification when it's recommended time to change your blades.
Oh, okay. That's cool. So it's keeping you on schedule if you want to be on schedule.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And blades are very affordable. Retail for a 12-pack of blades is like $19.99. So it's very affordable. You don't necessarily sharpen the blades or anything. You just dispose of them once the time is up. I think we recommend every 80 hours of cut time to change the blades. I shouldn't say this, but I know just from experience, I kind of push that a little over the 80 hours. And the mower still operates and cuts fine. I push it to about 100 to 120. I'm sure the engineers in our team wouldn't want to hear that, but they can last a pretty long time.
You're just acting like a contractor now.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Man, we get another few days out of those blades. Come on, we ain't got to sharpen them.
That's right. Exactly.
We don't have to change them. But that's good to know too, because that's one thing I've never looked at with one of them was the blade system itself. But it does seem like it's for the contractor. To John's point, I mean, they've got 55 of them out. I mean, they've certainly engaged in this and made it worthwhile with them for sure. What's your take on the industry? But before you answer that question, let me ask you this one. It's a little more direct to what we're talking about as far as mowing and that side of it. Can the same mower go from a front yard to a backyard if it's not turf? In other words, can I direct it through a fence to go, to the backyard as part of the pattern?
Yeah, that's very easy to do. Yep. So basically what you'll do when you're creating your map, you'll create your front yard as a zone. You'll designate it as like zone 1. And then right in your mapping app, you'll create a channel path to get from front yard to backyard. And then you'll create a boundary in the backyard and you'll designate that as zone 2. And you can do up to 12 zones. So you can have quite complex properties. Okay. And then you'll create a channel from each zone to each zone.
All right. And then what's the runtime on one charge?
So it depends on the mower.
Right.
But, I think a lot of the customers or a lot of the people listening to this would probably be running the X series mowers. That's our larger capability, larger acreage units, more professional focus. You're getting around 4 hours of runtime on those. And then they charge for about an hour. Obviously there's factors that play, that can have the mower cut longer or shorter on a battery cycle. Is the grass really thick? On the note of the blades, or your blades dull. If the blades are sharp, that battery, there's less wear and tear and pull on the battery, so it typically lasts a little bit longer. Is there a lot of hills on the property? Things like that. But we typically see about 4 hours, I'd say.
I gotcha. And what's the speed of one of those things? I mean, I'm thinking of this from a production standpoint already. If I have 4 hours runtime and I'm at 0.4 miles an hour or whatever the speed would be, I can come up with what I can tell my customer it's going to take it to run a course on their yard, or does the customer even care now?
No, that's a great question. So first off, the answer, I would say relatively so. I don't know the exact miles per hour, but I mean, I would say a pretty standard walking pace is kind of how fast they go. So I think that's a great point, right? Is the customer's grass is really being cut daily, right? So you'll get multiple cut cycles in a week. So I don't necessarily think that, the speed or, the charge time is a huge factor as long as you're putting the right mower on the right property. Obviously if you have an acre and a half that you're maintaining, you want an acre and a half mower or higher. We do recommend, potentially selling up to the 2.5 acre unit. You wouldn't want to put like an acre unit on an acre and a half. It's not going to keep up. It's not going to be able to maintain that, if that makes sense.
Sure. Absolutely it does. And then what about as far as the line of sight, the sight that you talked about? A question came in about, what about obstacles in the yard, the kids' toys? They mentioned like toys or balls. Do they just hit it back up like those vacuums do in a house, or what happens?
No. So that's the other benefit of our vision technology. Not only do you have the precise location and navigation on the yard, but it also helps with obstacle avoidance. So you can walk up to that mower, like you said, the kids lay toys in it. It'll pick up, it'll visualize that obstacle in the yard. It'll navigate around that obstacle. And then on its pass back through, it'll reevaluate that situation. Did that obstacle move? If so, it's going to cut over that so it doesn't miss any section of your yard. If that obstacle is still there, it'll avoid it and keep going on its path. And then it'll eventually, come back to that spot and reevaluate it. So it's very safe.
That's it. Now, does it design its own pattern, or do you program, hey, I want long straight strips, or I want diagonal cut, or how does it decide it's cut?
Yeah, it's a great question. So you can choose the cut direction if you want. The default setting is, so you create your map. It's going to go out at a certain angle. Let's say the first cut pattern is going to be vertical. So it's going to do vertical straight lines, and it's going to cut systematically until that boundary is 100% complete. The default setting next will send it out and cut at a different direction. So potentially the second mowing cycle, it'll cut horizontal. The third mowing cycle, it'll cut, diagonal.
Okay.
The fourth, it'll cut another diagonal. So it's always cutting at a different angle until 100% complete. That's the default setting. Now, if you are somebody who only wants vertical straight lines, you can program that right in the app. and it'll cut only vertical straight lines.
Nice. So it is completely flexible for the guys that like the stripes to do whatever they want to do.
That's right. That's right. Yep. You can program it as you choose. I personally like the default setting. I like it cutting at a different angle every mowing cycle. It actually kind of creates a checkerboard pattern in the yard, and it looks really, really nice.
How does it deal with undulation change in the yard? I've got the world's worst front yard, and it's about 1,600 square feet. That's all it is. But it's just the undulation of the yard's terrible. How well do these mowers adjust for that? Like, in other words, does it feel that, hey, I'm creating an uneven cut, or do they just mow in a direction? How do they handle that, Adam? If you don't mind.
They handle it pretty well. I mean, each yard's different. They cut systematically. And when you say undulation change, are you kind of referring to like dips and ruts in the yard?
Yeah, dips in a yard. Yeah. You know, I'm in a cul-de-sac, and my front yard, for an example, adjoins my neighbor's yard. And where it is, there's a natural drain, where the water from both yards hit that drain and run to the back downhill. But it's not a true ditch, if you will, and it's just a pain in the butt to mow it with a normal mower.
Yeah. I would say every case is different. I think for the most part, it's going to handle that pretty well. Just like anything, just if you run a traditional zero turn over that, you may have an area where, the blades can't get to just because it's somewhat elevated off the ground. So you may have to trim that a bit. But they handle rough terrain pretty well. They handle elevation change pretty well. I as well have kind of a nice slope in the front of my yard, and it kind of makes up for that slope. It goes up and it cuts it quite nice. That being said, I mean, it is a small and light product. If you do have, like, let's say if you have like a hole in the yard or something, that mower, the wheels can get stuck in that. So it is really important for success to make sure there's no obstacles in the yard where that mower could potentially get hung up on. Cause we do see that, but that's just site prep beforehand, before installation.
I gotcha. Yeah. And it makes completely good sense. Kind of jokingly, but half serious. I know when I used to be out mowing, now I have undulation problems in a yard, and, it happens the first couple times you mow a yard, then you realize where the dips are at and you remember it. But I just remember, okay, if I scalp this enough, next time it'll go over the top of it.
Right.
But hey, speaking of scalping, how good are these things at not scalping? Obviously, you're not going to have turn marks that you get with a traditional mower, right? I mean, it's
no turn marks, no ruts or anything like that. I haven't noticed any scalping. So the blades or the mowing disc on these mowers is there from 7.3 inches on our smaller units up to 9.3 inches on our bigger units.
Yeah.
So it's a short cutting diameter. So you really don't see a lot of scalping. At least I haven't encountered that.
I got you. And as far as return on investment goes, back to a contractor, I know it's going to depend on, the market and how many mows a season they're getting in or whatnot. What do you see some of that as? What are you hearing back for some of your commercial users that, hey, I put this lawnmower on your yard, and leave it there, and I just come by and do the trimming. What's my return on investment time frame? Is it 2 seasons or a 3, or what's it take?
You're anywhere, from what I've seen, it could be anywhere from 6 to 18 months. Obviously that's market dependent. I have a landscape customer in Chicago area. Again, probably a pretty higher end customer that he's working with. So I think he can get a little bit more money up front, but his plan is, and I think it's a great plan. What he does is he'll sign a customer up for a robotic mowing contract. They actually give him a deposit of 50% of the unit cost up front. And then he sets them up with a 36-month contract. So they're in a 3-year contract, in a service contract. So he's saying within about 6 months for him, that unit's paid off. And then it's, profit following that from month 7 to 36. I would say that's a best case scenario. I think he's really operated that well. And he's implemented roughly 20 units out this season alone. So he's done really well with it.
So he's getting 50% of the cost of the machine up front from the client. And then writing the rest up in a contract. Now, who's responsible for the maintenance, or is he selling, the maintenance of that back to the client, or do we, as the contractor, take the maintenance side if something's, not mowing right or needs to be changed out, or what kind of maintenance is involved on a robotic mower?
He's doing all the maintenance. So there's not a ton of maintenance as far as the robotic mower goes. So you're going to have to change the blades, roughly 3 to 4 times during a cutting season, probably on that higher end, probably 4 times a cutting season. So that's just a couple minute process. You can do that. We see the landscapers do that during a day where they're doing the detailed work on the property. His plan is at the end of the cutting season, he's going to pick each mower up, take it back to his business location. He's going to store each unit in a climate controlled building, clean them up, do a firmware update on them or program update, put new blades on, fix anything that needs to happen. But we don't see a ton of maintenance on robotic mowers, specifically the Navimow. We don't see a ton of maintenance. So there's not a ton.
Yeah. Yeah. John just sent me a text, the gentleman that said they're running 50 plus machines, and he said it's about 12 months for them on their recovery. 12 to 18 months is how they set theirs up. So, any question we got here again from somebody is the capabilities for islands. Can they get up and down curbs, or are they strictly, you got to keep them where they're at on that surface, a flat surface?
Yeah, they work best on a flat surface. Okay. So I don't think they'd be able to climb up a curb at this point.
Okay. All right. Do you think that's somewhere maybe technology wise where they might get to for commercial mowing? Or do you see more of this as a residential opportunity for somebody?
So I think at this point in time, it's more residential focused, but I know for us, we are heavily focused in growing our commercial business, specifically for commercial properties, golf courses, and so forth.
Yeah.
I would not be shocked in the next year or two that we have a mower or somebody has a mower that is capable of navigating curbs. It wouldn't shock me.
Good deal. I'm sure it's good to hear for a lot of contractors, that, or even, just somebody that's wanting to mow their own commercial property, if you will, that, rather than having their own maintenance do it. I could see what that would be. That was a good question we got from that guy. Thank you.
That's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah. It was really good. So we got the return on investment side of it handled pretty well then. I appreciate your input and John's input, on that. The installation seems simple. Does the installation of the product, does it have to be stored dry?
It does not. No.
In other words, where this thing parks at night, or do I need to have it run under my deck, or where do I store this thing?
No need to have it underneath the deck. We actually think they operate best in an open space. So all of our mowers are IP66 rated. So they are very well water resistant. And we actually, not necessarily dealing with the rain situation, but we actually recommend a couple deck cleanings a year, and we actually recommend use a garden hose to clean it. So water's not an issue at all.
Okay. So, and then do they, this is going to sound silly, but I just thought of this when you were talking about water, Adam. Do they have like a rain sensor or something to where if it starts raining while they're mowing that they'll come back to their dock, or does it not matter if it is raining?
Yeah, they actually do all have rain sensors. So the H series, which is our generation 1, has a physical rain sensor on it. So when moisture hits that sensor, it'll indicate, rain. And if you have the sensor turned on, the mower will return back to the charging station. You can turn that feature off if you don't mind it cutting in the rain. That's not an issue.
Okay.
The X series and I series actually communicate with a weather app, so they can actually see their systems coming. And again, you can turn that on or off if you want it to cut in the rain. I set my schedule on my X series. I set my schedule to cut in light rain only. I've noticed with heavy rain systems, sometimes the abundance of rain can kind of fog the cameras up, and that can kind of confuse the mower. So I only really cut mine on light range systems. But the artificial intelligence inside the mower can tell when it's going to be light or when it's going to be heavy. And if it's a heavy rain, it docks itself until the system moves on.
That's awesome. What about warranty on the product?
So we have a 3-year warranty. Yeah, 3-year warranty on the product, 2 years on the battery. Parts and labor are covered through a independent dealer. All of our dealers that we're signing up are required to offer warranty service, and they can take care of any issue that the product may have.
Good deal. Fair enough. Hey, just got a question in from a gentleman down in North Carolina, Craig. He said, what about cutting different types of grasses, Bermuda versus Zoysia versus fescue? And what about changing the mowing height? What's the complexity of mowing height change?
Yeah, it's a great question. So on our X series, you can actually change the cutting height from 2 to 4 inches right over your phone. You can give it remote commands, and instantaneously it'll change the cut height. So that's 2 to 4 inches, and we actually sell a lowering kit with that too now. It's like $10 retail, so it's a very affordable option. So if you had an area where you needed to cut lower, I believe it brings it from 1.8 down to 0.8 inches. So it actually lowers it considerably. As far as grass types, we haven't really seen a lot of issues. We have mowers from Maine down to Florida. And I know Florida, I believe, has St. Augustine. And it seems to handle it just fine. So most grass types that I've encountered haven't had an issue. We're able to modify the cut heights to properly cut those grass types.
Good deal. It sounds like y'all got it figured out for sure. I was curious when I saw that question come through, Adam. I was like, that's a really good question because of the density, that you get into with some of those Zoysias and Bermudas, how it would do with that. So now is there, with those, do they just all mow and leave the clippings under the deck? There's not a discharge on those, right? Or is there?
No, there's not. So it naturally mulches the clippings.
Okay.
Now with these mowers, when we think of traditional mowing, your grass is 6 inches high. You cut it with a zero turn. You knock it down to 3 inches. You have 3 inch of mulch that's left behind. With this, you're only taking micro cuts off the top. So maybe a couple millimeters, very, very small amount each day it's cutting. So it just kind of naturally falls to the ground, and actually it's healthier for the grass. We kind of look at it as a natural fertilizer, if you will.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't leave a mess. And one thing I want to say as far as grass types and cut height, something that's really, really important to have success when you're installing these mowers is to have a good, clean cut on the yard prior to installation. So one area where we see customers fail or they're not satisfied is if they have 6, 7, 8, 9 inches of grass, real high, thick grass, and they put a robotic mower on it and try to cut it from, 6 inches high down to 2 inches, it just doesn't look right. Eventually that mower will catch up and it'll start to look good. But really, we recommend if you're going to install one of our mowers or any robotic mower for that matter, give your yard a good, clean cut and then install that mower.
And then install the
best result.
Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Doug, gentleman in Pennsylvania that's involved with us this morning, he said he's got to go. He's got one last question. Are the blades sharpenable, or do you just replace them all?
No, they're not. They're like a dual-sided box cutter blade. So when they're dull, you just throw them out and replace them with
just
the blade.
Replace it. Okay.
Yep.
Good deal. All right. And then I guess last but not least, man, it's hard to believe we're running up on an hour. We got a few minutes left, though, Adam. I appreciate you staying with us so long. And
yeah.
now my sponsors are probably wondering why we're not playing commercials, but that's okay. We'll get them caught up for sure. But we certainly appreciate all of our sponsors. But where do you see the robotic? Where's the future of robotic mowing for commercial lawn care, in your opinion?
Oh, I think it's the future of commercial lawn care.
Do you see the guys making the investment?
I do. I think if we look at this, it is becoming more and more difficult every year to get employees to retain those employees. And I see this as really a necessary tool for these landscapers to stay in business, but also to grow their business, not necessarily stay in business, but to grow their business. We talk about it all the time is, landscapers are not bidding new work because they don't have the employees to reinforce that new work. This is a tool that frees up time, frees up labor, and allows them to grow their business, gain profitability, scale their business, and bid new work. So I see it as the future. This product line has come so far in the last 5 to 10 years. You mentioned it earlier. The old units had underground wires. They were difficult to install, difficult to maintain, difficult to modify. Now we're to the point where the units are very affordable for the contractor. They're very easy to install. Most mowers, most properties can be installed and up and running within an hour. And if they're installed right, there's very, very little maintenance. So it is really creating efficiencies in these businesses. And the great thing is there's a lot of innovation and products coming down the line. I can't share too much, but I know we're working on some really great things. Some all-wheel drive units, some large property units, some very commercialized mowers coming out in the future. And again, some very affordable mowers too that make your path to a return on investment much greater. So I really see this as the future. I think right now we're probably 95% of grass areas in the country are a candidate for robotic mowers, for Navimow especially. And I think that'll just continue to grow.
Good deal. Well, Adam, hey, we're up on it, buddy. I appreciate your time this morning. I'd love to get you. I'll talk to you about it later, but I'm going to have you speak to a group of contractors that we have within what's called the Profit Circle. It's with my business coaching, and I think you got a lot of great knowledge and opportunity there for that group as well. So I appreciate you hopping on with me. If you want to give your contact information out, are you good to do that for our listeners?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And Wayne, thank you so much for having me on. This is a great opportunity. By the way, I'd love to do it again. Anytime you want to have me on and talk segue and talk about robotic mowing, I'd love to do it.
Sure.
But yeah, if your customers or if your listeners, I should say, want to get a hold of me, absolutely. I'm pretty well involved with LinkedIn. I don't know if a lot of people do LinkedIn, but I'm posting on LinkedIn, just Adam Brozowicz. And then, feel free to, reach out to me if you have any questions or are interested. My email is adam.brozowicz@navimow.com. And then my phone number, actually, I can give that out, is 814-460-3718. So yeah, have them reach out anytime. I'd love to talk with them.
Certainly will do it. And I've got Adam's contact information here with me. So if any of you guys need his phone number and or would like his email address, you guys know how to get a hold of me. We'll certainly get it your way and he'll answer any questions that you got. So Adam, I want to again say thank you a lot. And we got one request. Somebody says, will you have him spell his last name, please?
Yeah, I can do that.
I think you're going to get a LinkedIn request here shortly.
Good. I'll look for it. Yeah, my last name's spelled Brozowicz, Brozewicz.
There you go. So it's Adam, Adam, and then Brozewicz. And
you got it.
If that doesn't get you there, give me a call back or give Adam a call. And again, Adam's number, if you guys want to write this down, is 814-460-3718. Adam, thanks again, my friend.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate
you hopping on, and we'll talk to you in a little bit. Thanks a lot.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye. All right. That was Adam. Great job with Segway Navimow. Want to give Tim Brennan a big shout out for sending Adam my way to get him on our show. I do believe too that it is part of the opportunity that we have as commercial landscapers is, some of this robotic mowing. And John, I know you've given us quite a bit of input in the Profit Circle before on that as well. I appreciate that. And I think it's certainly where we're going as an industry. You know, we look at battery powered equipment, we look at robotic equipment. We're still going to have somebody show up, do some string trimming and blowing and edging. And, but I think it's certainly a sellable item to the residential and or commercial market. I think, but we'll get some more input from you guys on that. But hey, we appreciate your time today. Stay tuned to Turfs Up Radio all day long. And again, shout out to Adam. Appreciate you hopping on with us, my friend, and spending an hour of your day with us here on Profit Time here on Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station. And remember, profit is not a dirty word. We'll see you Friday.